Hi, my name is Cindy Rang, and I'm the owner of the Fabric Patch in Ephrata, Washington, and I'm going to talk to you today about batting and thread choices with your long arm quilting and how that would relate to design options. So, and again, whether you're using your long arm or your sit down machine, the same applies. And I just want to talk about batting first, because oftentimes people will choose batting based on what they might have in their closet, what they might have purchased on sale, which is perfectly okay, but I just want to make sure that you realize that it will change the way that your quilt looks, and it's a decision that you probably should make that's just as important as the thread color that you're going to use. So I have a couple choices here I'm going to talk about, and then I'm going to show you a whole bunch of quilts underneath here. I do tend to like the Warm Company. I just like the company as a whole. They do a lot of donations, very altruistic. They're based here in Washington. They ship to us quickly. They have a very high quality product, but that's not to say that Heirloom and Hobbs isn't a great product. So if you have a batting that you like, I think that that's great. I'm basically going to talk about cotton, polyester, and blend, and some of the other plant-based ones. We have this in our shop. They're free. You can just come in and grab one, and they talk about the different battings and how close your stitches should be, some of the other products. So it's just a nice little reference tool if you feel like you still want to know a little bit more information about the battings. So let's start with cotton, and not just cotton, but the other plant-based battings. So whether it's soy, bamboo, cotton, they're all going to behave basically the same. They're all plant, they're all a natural fiber. Some are more expensive than others, but what's nice about cotton is that it maintains its loft. It's a natural fiber, so when you quilt it, your quilt is going to stay basically the same thickness as what you chose with your batting, and you'll see samples of this when we show you some of these. This one is Warm and Natural. Warm and Natural has a polyester scrim, and by scrim I mean, if you look here, you can see this little pattern where needles have gone in and they're holding all of the cotton fibers together. If you want something that's 100% cotton because you're going to use it for your microwavable bowls, then Warm 100 has a cotton scrim in it, and then we know that there's no polyester. I want you to look up close. You can see here's your scrim marks. This side on the back side is kind of fuzzy. The reason it's important to notice this is because there is a right and a wrong side to batting, cotton batting in particular. And by wrong side, I just mean that when you put it on your machine, if you put this down where you've got the scrim side up, this is used to being needled. This is used to needles going in and out. It's going to lay down perfectly. If you put this side up where you've got this fuzzy side up, as your needle comes in and out, it's going to pull little bits of fuzz. You will immediately notice it. You'll feel it on your nose, you'll feel it in your eyes, you'll have lint everywhere. It's not necessarily wrong, it's just the uncomfortable side to quilt with. So when you load your batting, make sure that you have scrim side up. If you feel like it's difficult to tell, you'll sometimes see little bits of leaves and cotton pods and that sort of remnants of stuff on the top of it. People ask all the time if they should pre-wash their batting. I don't feel like you need to. All of your quilts should be washed in just a cool to tepid wash. You should never wash anything in hot. But if you like that kind of antique-y look, a quilt that's been washed a lot, you can see that cotton batting will shrink just a little bit, and it kind of exaggerates your quilting a little, which I like this look. I think it looks really good. And when you have something antique-y and you've quilted it heavily and then you wash it, it does give it kind of a nice look. So I like that. If you don't care for that particular look, you might want to think about doing a blend. So this one is an 80-20, so that means that it's 80% cotton and 20% polyester. There's also a 50-50, and they're not going to shrink at all. And so if you like the look of cotton, but you don't want that that little shrinkage thing that happens, then you can think about a blend. Everything else is basically the same. You can see the scrim on this side. You can see the fuzzy part on this side. The other thing that's going to happen is that it again is going to, because of the cotton in it, it's going to maintain its loft just a little bit. You'll see a little bit more of a divot when you quilt it, but not as much as polyester. Polyester is kind of nice because it's lofty and it comes in quite a variety of lofts, something from something relatively thin to something extremely thick, depending upon what kind of look you're looking for. All different weights to it. It is a synthetic fiber, so where a cotton fiber is breathable, which means that it's going to keep you warm in the winter and cool in the summer because it's going to breathe with your body basically. Polyester, that's not so much the case. Polyester looks good. Cotton fabric is still going to keep you warm, but I'm just saying that if somebody lives in Phoenix, I would probably make them a cotton batting in their quilt and not so much a polyester one. The other thing about polyester is that when you quilt it, it quilts down to 0. So that means that where you're quilting, you'll absolutely see your quilting line, and I'll show you that example in just a minute. So if you don't want people to see your quilting because you're nervous about your quilting, then don't choose polyester. Pick a cotton, because otherwise, again, you'll be able to see every single mark. The other thing about polyester is, of course, it's 100% polyester, so it's not going to shrink at all. So if you're making a quilt for a college student or, you know, somebody younger and maybe they don't know how to do laundry yet, polyester is going to just, it's always going to look the same in and out of the washer and the dryer, so it works really well. Let's see. So I'll show you a couple examples. I also want to talk about thread choice, and I'm going to talk about that right now because as we look at these samples, we'll talk about thread color and batting, and again, how that relates to the design of your quilt. And you want to make these decisions, and they're just as important as what sort of quilting you're doing on your quilt. I tend to use 4 colors almost all the time. I tend to use a white, a black, a cream, and a gray. Just because for me personally, I feel like the quilting should enhance the piecing. It shouldn't be about me and my quilting. It should be about the piecing that's been done. That being said, if I've made a quilt that I think is hideous and I don't like it, then that's kind of nice to go ahead and put some sort of a burgundy thread on it or something variegated, because I want to enhance the color choices with my quilting. So just make sure that you, again, weigh those decisions as to whether or not you want your beautifully pieced quilt to look beautifully pieced, or if you want the first thing for somebody to notice is that you've mastered feathers and look how pretty your feathers are. So for me, that's kind of why I stick with mellow colors. The other thing that I notice is that this dark gray blends into everything. Everything dark, it's going to look brown on brown, it's going to look gray on gray, it's going to look blue on blue, as long as it's a dark color. And the light yellow, it's going to do the same thing. If it's a pastel, it's going to look teal on teal, it's going to look purple on purple, it's going to look pink on pink even. And so I don't like to use monofilament thread. I just like to use a lightweight thread that's going to blend in. Again, not to say that I don't occasionally pick something that's a little bit brighter, but I make that decision carefully. We talked about this before about bobbins. I think it's kind of important that the bobbin match the top thread just so you don't have any freckling. Oftentimes when you're going to have freckling, most of the time it's because your needle might be a little bit too large and you can kind of see everything in there. But if you've got a purple back and a white top, you're going to have to make some decisions. What I would do is I would still use white thread, and I'm just going to make sure that I've got white thread on the back. That means I'm going to see my quilting, but I think that that's okay. So decisions to make, and every quilt is different. The other thing that I tend to do is for new quilters, I suggest that you keep a a book. And you can say, I quilted cotton on the top, cotton on the back, cotton batting, and I used king tut thread and pre-filled bobbin. Write how that experience was. Did you have thread breakage? Did you have tension issues? Did your thread break with your needle? What was your needle size? And with every one, same thing with your battings. I found that my particular machine, there's a thread that it hates and there's a batting that it hates. I'm not going to tell you which one because your machine will be different. Brianna's machine is totally different. Carolyn's machine is different. So you just have to find what works well for you, document that. You'll see that there will be a pattern. And then what will happen is you'll always choose, the same bobbins. I use one type of thread that I like. It's the color that's different, but I like one thread, one bobbin, and I have no tension issues, no thread breakage, no problems with anything, no matter what batting I'm using. And you just have to find what works well for you. And so we've talked about that before, but I think it's important just to keep a little diary, a stitch diary, so that you know what will work well for you. So let's look at some design options here with some of these quilts. This is just a small smattering of things that were not hanging on the walls or out at the event center, but there's lots more to look at. You can come in, and we always allow in our shop for you to just feel everything, look at the front and the back of things. We can tell you exactly what battings are used. And when you go to quilt shows, do the same thing. I don't know that you're always able to feel everything, but you can tell, again, the design differences based on threads and battings. So this is an example, obviously, of a cotton batting. You can tell that because it's nice and flat. You can see the stitching on here, but it's not that it's necessarily prominent. There is a little bit of prominence with the stitching because it's a variegated thread, but it's really not about the quilting. It's about this pattern that's created with the sewing. This one, same idea. So this one is a cotton batting. You can tell that because it's nice and flat. And again, you can look at the thread color and see that the thread color is something that's going to blend with the brown, the gray, the blue, even the cream. There's a little bit of a different design in each one. But again, it's nice and flat, and you almost have to kind of look to see the design that's done on the quilt. You can see a little bit more on the back because, of course, the back thread matches the top thread, which is that dark gray. This next one is just a very loose quilting, and you can see this one is a cotton batting. Actually, this one is a blend. This one is an 80-20, so this one's been washed quite a bit actually. You can see a little bit of loftiness, but also what you can see is that after washing, we've had just a little bit of differences with the batting. The batting is going to shrink 1 to 2% if it's cotton. This one is a polyester. You can see that because I don't know if you can tell, but there's a lot of loftiness. And so what happens is you not only can see the quilting real easily, but you can see where it's not been quilted really kind of puffs up quite a bit. So if you really want something to be a little bit more obvious, then polyester is a good choice. And I think that polyester was picked with this one because, of course, it has a flannel backing. It's something that's for a young man, and so again, nice and lofty, and you can see all of that quilting on that one. This one also is a polyester, a little higher loft, and so this one too, you can almost really see from the back, see that puffiness. So you can see what I mean, where it's quilted, it goes down to 0. I mean, it's as flat can be, and where it's not quilted, it kind of maintains its puffiness. And so when you're doing something, if you've chosen a polyester batting, then you don't necessarily have to over quilt it because then there's almost no point. I mean, you're going to quilt it down to where there's nothing going on, and so where you've left a little bit of space in between, you can really see more of a texture with your piecing, and it's something that can really enhance that pattern. This one is really more of a lesson almost on thread color. So this one is one of those where the thread color was actually a pale yellow, but no matter what, you know, on the pink, it looks pink. On the dark pink, it looks dark pink. On the blue, it looks blue. On the mint, it looks mint. So you can see that that pale yellow thread is something that almost looks invisible. And the reason that I do that over a monofilament is because I do like a cotton thread or a cotton poly thread. And again, so this is a cotton, so even though there's a different design in here, you really can't see it very much because it doesn't flatten very much. And that's why too, you know, the little lines that are created here for this outer piecing, it's just a real subtle quilting. And even out here in the side, you know, that could be the best feathers you've ever done or the worst. You're probably not going to see it very much because the texture doesn't change much with the cotton. This one is also cotton, and I wanted to mention this one. So again, you can see that it's nice and flat. It didn't change at all. You know, so these leaves aren't popping up off of the fabric at all. Same thing with this. And what's nice about this one is that, so this one was all fused down, all cut out, layered, fused down. And so all of the stitching, you can do this on your machine, you can do this by hand, or what I tend to do is as a long armor, I'm just gonna put it on and quilt it anyway. So you can just go ahead and go around, excuse me, all of those edges so that everything is quilted down. Also creating a little bit more texture if there's hair or something else that you want to put on there. And again, it's nice and flat, so you're really able to see the colors and the fabric and the design of the fabric. This one is a blended, and so this one you can see just a little bit more of the texture. And so this is an example where there was different block work done in each one of the blocks. And so there's swirls, there's lines, there's bumps, there's all kinds of stuff, all done with a dark green thread. So the thread wasn't changed, but a lot of different designs on there. And then this last one, oh no, two more. So this one, the thread choice was kind of this silvery thread, so you don't really see it on the backgrounds. You can see all of these different textures, but on the black, it really stands out. It's not to say that you couldn't have changed thread color if you wanted to, but I think it all works out okay. This one you can see is a polyester. And that's why you can see the design quite a bit. And so where there's echoing around this, you can see how that really kind of puffs up, echoing around this. And so things are kind of lifting up off. And even the stipple, look at the difference with the stipple that is polyester. And see how it's just really bumpy. And you can see every movement with the quilting because it's poly. This one is cotton, and so totally different. I mean, look at the difference. So here's those same feathers, but again, pretty subtle. You can see it if you look up close, but it's not really lifting off because it's all cotton. Same thing with the lines, same thing with this. There's something down here. Oh yeah, I always like to show, oh goodness. I always like to show that these two are exactly the same background fabric. But look at how different the texture looks based on the quilting. So we've got just some lines here and some pebbles there, but it makes it look totally different. So, and then for thread choice, This one, this is all the same. No, it's not. This one has a dark gray that's used in part of the places, and then just a light cream in the rest. So there was a thread change in this one, because again, this was supposed to be about the piecing and the pattern, not about the quilting. And so again, that's why I chose cotton batting and something that was kind of subtle in terms of the quilting. All right, so very brief, very basic, but batting is a pretty significant choice. Cotton is breathable. Cotton and all of the plant-based natural fibers are breathable, and they're going to maintain their loft. Polyester washes great, pretty effect, but when you have polyester, you're going to see every single quilted line in it. And then for thread color, just decide, do you want your thread to stand out and be seen? Maybe you do, or do you want it really to take a back seat to the piecing? So those are just two of the more important decisions that you'll make before you even ever decide what you're going to put on your quilt in terms of design.
Thank you for watching our video. We invite you to leave a comment, hit the like button, or better yet, subscribe to our channel so you never miss an episode. You can also visit our Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or Pinterest pages, or find all of those things and our online store at fabricpatch.net.